In the early 18th century, after the Spanish War of Succession, the Austrians took modern-day Belgium from the Spanish and held it for nearly a century. But as the French Revolution erupted, the Belgians rose up in the Brabant Revolution in 1790. They declared independence, but the new state only survived a year before the Austrians retook it. However, the French then conquered the region and held it until the fall of Napoleon. At the end of the Napoleonic Wars, the Dutch were given Belgium in exchange for the British keeping Cape Town and Ceylon. And Luxembourg entered into a personal union with the Dutch, but was part of the German Confederation as well. However, Belgium was predominantly Catholic and had a mix of French and Dutch speakers. The Netherlands, on the other hand, was primarily Protestant and was highly mercantile, with a large middle class as opposed to the largely agrarian south. So many Dutch reforms angered those in the south. For instance, the free trade and lack of tariffs undermined the southern farmers' crop prices, and the Belgian cloth trade declined and the social structure was turned upside down with the Industrial Revolution. Plus, in 1823 they tried to make Dutch the official language of Flanders, angering the middle-class French speakers there. So by 1830 the calls for independence grew louder, from Catholics fearing a loss of influence, the liberals wanting more freedoms, and the working class who were then suffering from crop failures and increasing unemployment. Although William I ruled over the United Kingdom of the Netherlands, his son Prince William governed Belgium. He was far more moderate than his father, and he repealed the language reforms. But that year, in 1830, a revolution in France toppled Charles X. This revolution inspired the Belgians, and the revolution began in Brussels on the 25th of August 1830. It was triggered at an opera about an Italian rebellion against the Spanish in the 17th century, and as patriotic songs began there, many in the crowd left and began to riot. Thousands soon joined in, and the governors of Brussels were chased out of the city. And the revolution spread across the region. For instance, in Liège, a journalist, Charles Rogier, led 300 men to Brussels to aid the revolution. The middle classes then helped establish militias and eventually the civic guard in order to stop the rioting and assume control. Prince William then travelled south with troops to try and end the revolution, but he did agree to enter the city peacefully to discuss terms first. He was willing to divide the north and the south into different administrative regions, but his father was not. So the revolution continued to spread. For instance, in Antwerp the revolutionaries seized the city, but the Dutch still held the citadel. And in Luxembourg the people also rose up, but Prussian troops prevented them from taking the formidable fort there. In late September the Dutch tried to reclaim Brussels but were fought back in the streets, and on their retreat they bombarded Antwerp from the citadel, angering the Belgians and ending any real hope of a peaceful settlement. The Dutch forces therefore left most of Belgium, with the exceptions of forts in Antwerp, Luxembourg and Maastricht. And on the 26th of September a provisional government was set up, headed by Charles Rogier, and declared independence. This government, however, was divided because some were Republicans and others were monarchists, some supported independence and others supported being annexed by France. Meanwhile, the European powers still feared the French and thought they might annex the new nation. So in December the powers met to discuss peace. The French proposed to divide Belgium between the Dutch, Prussians and themselves, while allowing the British to have influence over the Free State of Antwerp. But this was rejected as most nations favoured Dutch control over Belgium. However, no major powers came to their aid. This is because Europe was in a state of turmoil. Portugal was in a civil war, a succession dispute in Spain would lead to the Carlist Wars, and Russia was dealing with the Polish uprising. So the new Foreign Secretary of Britain, Lord Palmerston, decided not to back the Dutch and favoured an independent Belgium free from foreign control. Meanwhile, in Belgium, the provisional government decided on creating a constitutional monarchy, but they had no monarch. They initially offered the throne to Prince Louis, the son of the new King of France, Louis Philippe, but the French feared antagonising the rest of Europe, so they rejected it. So Leopold of Saxe-Coburg was offered the crown. He was a Protestant German that married the daughter of George IV of Britain, and had already rejected the throne of Greece a year earlier, so he had connections all over Europe. But shortly after he became king in July 1831, the Dutch tried to claim back their lost territory during the 10 Days Campaign.